All right, all right. Welcome, guys. Welcome back to the Wealth Mindset Podcast. It's your host, Jose Gonzalez, aka Mr. Wealth Mindset. And this is the show where we dive into the intersection of faith, finances, and relationships to help you become the best version of yourself as a Christian man. Each week, we bring you insightful conversations with experts in their respective fields, as well as real life stories that help you navigate the challenges of mindset, money, and marriage. So join us on this journey of personal growth, financial freedom, and deepening relationships. Let's go. All right, guys, I'm so excited. This is episode 2 of the Wealth Mindset Podcast, and I'm excited for the guest that we have today. We're gonna jump right into it. I'm gonna bring up my guest this afternoon. It's a great friend, business colleague, Mr. Kris Crowley. He's an entrepreneur, a father, a family man, a man of faith. Um, He's an online personal trainer and a professional natural bodybuilder. I can't wait to dive into that topic. But throughout his life, Kris has battled being overweight and a lot of the health issues that come along with that. And once he embraced the ketogenic bodybuilding lifestyle, not only was he able to get in the best shape of his life at 48. I love that because a lot of people think that our best days are in our youth, but he's also been able to overcome and reverse all of those health issues. He's the founder of Desire for Iron Fitness, which allows him to pursue his passion and purpose of helping men and women get into the best shape of their life and overcome all the issues that come along with being overweight. Kris, I'm so excited to have you on the show today. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on. It's an honor to be on this show, especially in its infancy, brother. I can't wait to see what comes of this podcast for you.
Appreciate you, and I know that your message and your story is going to be a blessing to a lot of people today. Having you here is a little bit self-serving, because I like to bring people on that not only my audience is going to learn from, but that I'm going to be personally impacted by. So I'm really excited to hear your story and kind of dive into it. So with that, we're gonna jump right in, and I'm just gonna start to go ahead and ask you. Tell us a little bit about your personal story. What your journey and history was like when you were dealing with being overweight, the health issues that came along with that.
Okay, so I would most of my life as a child, high school, I was always just that little bit of the chubbier kid. Not necessarily, obese, but definitely not decidedly athletic or anything like that. I worked out, exercised regularly, but I just didn't eat a really good diet. So later on down the road, I was 20 years old. Now, when I was in my early teen, not I would say my late teens and early 20s, I had that late teen, early 20 metabolism. So I could eat whatever I wanted, drink whatever I wanted, smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day, and still be just fine. Okay,
That's right.
but that caught up to me somewhat quickly. I was in the Marine Corps from 95 to 99, and I was definitely putting on the weight. I was in the air wing, and in the air wing, we don't have as much schedulized physical exercise programs because we're too busy fixing aircraft. So you've got to work out on your own, and I didn't. So I was putting on the weight a lot, and I have a family history of a lot of diabetes, cancer, um, like I said, diabetes, high blood pressure, strokes, heart attacks. You mentioned it, you name it. But most of it, if not all of it, is directly related to lack of diet and exercise. And I was just following in those footsteps. So in my 30s, I noticed I was pushing close to 300 pounds at one point. And I lost a lot of the weight by going into boxing at 30. I lost a lot of weight. And then my wife was pretty adamant about me not continuing a hobby in boxing because she thought to herself, honey, I love you. I'm glad you got to have your Rocky Balboa moment, but you are the sole provider for this household. You keep getting punched in the face as a hobby. You might not be able to earn money for us as an obligation. So the boxing went away, and the diet and exercise went away too. So I was putting the weight back on all over again. And in my mid 40s, I was seeing a doctor here in Cleveland, Ohio, who was letting me know, he's like, look, Kris, I can keep pumping you full of pills for the rest of your life. And you'll probably still live to be in your 80s. Okay. But you're going to be miserable by the time you're in your 50s, if you're lucky, because you're not taking care of yourself. I see that you're exercising, and that's great, but you can't outwork that extra large pizza and that 12 pack of beer that you're having 3 days a week. You can't do it. So you need to start working on your exercise, on your diet. So I was following his advice a little bit. Now, I think I was around 44, 45. I was in Detroit for a business trip, and I met a man. His name is Dave Bowers. He was a National Physique Committee / International Federation of Bodybuilders promoter. So basically, if you want to become Mr. Olympia, you want to become Arnold Schwarzenegger, and that's the organization you go to. I met him. This guy, jacked, man. His polo shirt had muscles on it. It was amazing. And we were talking, and I was like, I've always wanted to do bodybuilding. And I remember watching that stuff on ESPN. You'd see like Gary Stridham, Lee Labrada, Lou Ferrigno, all of these other guys. Oh, man, I really want to do that. But I'm in law enforcement, so I have a real problem. I know that there's cops out there that use steroids. I know they're out there. But I'm not going to do that because I have a problem with, if I'm going to do something that I would arrest somebody for doing, that's not cool. So I was like, okay, I'm going to have to do the natural route. So I looked up natural bodybuilding, Cleveland, Ohio, and I saw that there were shows out here. So I was sort of doing the diet. Now, my doctor had prescribed me to not completely restrict my carbohydrates, but definitely lower them. And I was doing that, what he said. And I looked up ketogenic stuff, all that stuff. I was following the advice a little bit, but I still didn't have everything in play. So in 2019, I did my first competition. If you go to desirefoриron.com, I know I'm already plugging my website pretty early, but if you go there, you can download my free ebook, and you'll see the first picture. I had no business competing yet. I was healthier, but I still had no business competing. I was that chubby guy wearing a G-string is what I boiled down to. And then fast forward, I finally dialed everything in where it wasn't just the type of food I was eating. I don't care what diet you guys do. I'm just going to give you guys the best advice right now. I don't care what kind of diet you do. Calories in versus calories out is still important for losing fat. However, using a lower carb diet is going to be better because the kind of calories you're taking in are better quality. But I digress. 2020, I finally dialed everything in. I got back up on stage. And even though I didn't place as well as I wanted to, I definitely looked the part of a bodybuilder, even though as a natural. Guys, natural bodybuilders are not huge. You just look athletic and you look like you got abs. 2021, on the other hand, I went and did that show for Dave Bowers in Indianapolis. I did one of his shows because I figured I got to pay this back and go full circle. Now, it was an NPC show. It wasn't expected to be attested. None of the athletes were expected to be natural. So I knew that going in there that I was going to be really behind the power curve. But I thought with my conditioning and how I looked, I was going to do okay. Got blown out of the water. Last place in every single show. Devastated because I really wanted to at least prove to myself that I could do well on such a big stage. Driving back home from Indianapolis, my wife, who's been such an awesome support, without her support, I don't think I could do this. She said, Kris, you've worked too hard. You need to do a natural show. So I did the natural show, the same show that I did in 2019 as the fat guy. I came home taking first place in 2 different categories and taking my pro card home that same day. So definitely have embraced this lifestyle and everything that it's done for me spiritually, physically, and mentally, leaps and bounds. All the problems I had. I was on 2 different blood pressure medicines. One of the pills my doctor prescribed double the recommended dose because my blood pressure was so high. I'm no longer on any cholesterol pills, and my A1C last time I had it checked was just fine. And a definite non-scale victory when I went and switched my health insurance or my life insurance. They had me quoted as someone who was like 47, and they gave me somewhat of a higher premium. But after they took my physical, they're like, you're in the shape of a man who's like 25 years old, so we can't charge you this much money. So they dropped my premiums exponentially. So it's just, I'm never turning back from this life, even though I do admit I ate a little bit more during the holiday season than I wanted to, but that's okay. These things happen. I love this lifestyle, what it's done for me. And my passion is to help other men and women. And like you said, a lot of people think like after 35, they're done and their best days are behind them. Okay, maybe you're not going to put on the size you could put on back in your 20s, but what's the worst that's going to happen at 40 years old? You're going to look good naked? Oh no. You can still do a lot of good stuff no matter what age you are.
I love that. I love that. Such a powerful story. And you know, Chris, when you and I met, I was in a different niche. I was also in health and wellness. You know, I was the artist formerly known as the Keto Master Chef. You know, and I had a very similar journey, right? Where I struggled with health and weight for a long time. I was diabetic. I dealt with other metabolic, you know, inflammatory issues. Once I got on keto, I lost 100 pounds in 5 months. And yeah, but I'm really inspired, you know, by your story because, you know, one of the things that you point out, which I love, is that you say that, you know, you're in the best shape of your life and how, you know, your health insurance, you know, premium got dropped, you know, dramatically. And so I just want to dive a little bit deeper into that myth, right? There's this, and listen, there's a reason why when we're young we're in great shape. Our hormones are optimized in a different way. Our bodies are less sensitive to things like drinking and eating terrible foods. But then there's this huge myth that as you get older, the expectation is that you're going to, you know, be out of shape, right? Especially for men, right? That you're going to be out of shape, that you're going to have a gut. So if you just can kind of like expand a little bit on that myth, but also in your own words, you know, why do you think it's important, right, for people to not only get in that best shape of their life, but specifically, you know, do resistance training and add muscle as we age?
Right. Well, the only reason that it's factual for people that they're going to get out of shape and get the dad bod or worse or anything like that is because that's what we're conditioned to think, and it's easier to stay in a comfort zone and bitch about things. I know we're both Christian men, but sometimes my adjectives come out a little bit. We're going to complain about things because it's easier to put the blame on something else than to, as Michael Jackson would say, start with the man in the mirror. All right.
Mm.
Um, so I can blame genetics. Look, if you went to a Crowley family reunion, you would definitely go, "Oh gosh, no wonder why Kris is so heavy." Okay, I don't mean to put my family members down, but all of us Chicago Irish folks, man, that's a lot of beer, a lot of nasty food that's designed to kill you, and it does. Um, I know I'm in Cleveland now, but I grew up in Chicago. So anyhow, the reason why it's so important to not let yourself become that statistic is I understand no matter how well we take care of ourselves, we all are prepackaged worm food as far as this body is concerned. But why are you going to let yourself live a substandard life when it's not that hard? Uh, I don't want to say that it's not that hard because it is hard to diet and exercise, but it's not hard to do it. It's just hard to continue to do it. Is what I guess what I'm trying to say. But it's worth it. All right, because when God gives you these gifts, all right, all of us know friends of ours who would give anything just to be able to walk again or to walk, period. Okay. And then we also have friends that, had a lot of good things going for them, but they got into a car accident and now they're wheelchair bound or whatever have you. And here it is. Here's two men that have full capability of our bodies. And we're not willing to take that 1 hour, 4 days a week to really push ourselves hard in the gym and keep up this shell that God gave us, this jar of clay. No matter where you go, whether you have the nicest house in the world or you're living in a substandard housing or whatever have you, none of that matters because everywhere you go, you take two things with you: your body and your soul, and it is your obligation to take care of both of them. All right. And again, look, folks, you're watching this right now. Here's Jose in New York. Here's me in Cleveland, Ohio. We're talking, the Jetsons are real right now. We're talking on a computer, instantaneously, face to face. All right. This isn't tin cans with fish and line or anything like that. So if you're watching this, you're living in a much more privileged state than you might want to admit. So you only person you have to blame if you're not going to go out there and kick your own butt is yourself. All right. Do not settle. Don't compromise your goals. All right. And whether maybe your goal isn't to be shredded or anything like that, but whatever it is you're trying to do, being healthy and being in a position of being healthy is going to help you achieve those goals so much easier.
I love that. I love that. And you kind of, it was a perfect segue into what I want to get into next, because, you know, when I was helping people, overcome being unhealthy as you do, now I'm in a different sector. I pivoted my business to focus on, financial education and literacy, and I teach people how to, create wealth, how to invest properly. But the reason it was an easy transition for me is because I found this common thread. Right. And that is that the same thing that keeps people unhealthy is the same thing that keeps people unwealthy. And that's mindset. And I think that
Right.
you've set that up perfectly, talking about how, you have to have personal accountability. You can't make excuses. So talk to me a little bit about the specific mindset that you had to employ to go from personally struggling with health issues, seeing, as you said, that you came from this family background, right,
Right.
where people are dealing with health issues and obese, right? So you didn't have anyone to model yourself after. You had to
Right.
kind of, and I think that this is very important, because sometimes people don't have that, history, lineage. They're not surrounded by people that they can just say, "Oh, my uncle was fit, right? My dad was fit." So they kind of have to adopt this mindset, this new persona, to change it. So talk to us about the importance of mindset, how you adopted that mindset, to become where you are now, someone who's healthy and is helping and inspiring others to do the same.
Um, you know what? There's always somebody out there that said something better than how you can say it, yourself, right? And one person who says it perfectly is Joe Rogan. Be the
Mm,
hero of your own movie. Okay. What started it when I decided that I wasn't going to, when I decided I was going to become this bodybuilder, that I was going to have, call it a midlife crisis, call it whatever, I don't care. When I decided I was going to jump into this and I was going to take charge of my life every morning. Now, this was extreme. What I advise people that are just trying to get healthy and put on muscle and something like that. You don't have to do this, but when you're getting ready to do a show, you got to get extreme. I was getting up at 3 o'clock every morning, um, drinking my coffee, doing my meditations on YouTube. There's this father out of Cameroon, Father Blessed Anjame. He does this Catholic meditation. So I'm listening to that while I'm drinking my coffee. And then on my way to the gym, I was putting on bodybuilding motivation videos. So it might be like Seth Ferosi was talking, or even David Goggins was talking, or something like that. I'm not watching the video because I'm driving to the gym, but I'm listening to it. And it was just something that was pumping me up. And then when I was in the gym, and I still do this now, it's in my mind's eye. I'm not doing this. I don't have a camera crew, but in my mind's eye, I'm that person that they're filming that motivational video on. It's not The Rock being filmed. It's Kris
mm,
Crowley being filmed while I'm doing those cable crossovers, or I'm doing those squats, or I'm doing those lunges. I'm kicking my butt in that gym. I'm pouring out sweat, right? I'm doing that cardio, and then I'm getting home and I'm eating that food that I know I've had that same food 3 days in a row. I've had that chicken and broccoli, or I've had the eggs and the egg whites, or the tuna, or whatever. But I know the reason why I'm doing that is because I'm feeding my body with the nutrients it needs to also, to look a certain way. And to the next day, I'm going to go and do the same thing over. And, not the same workout, but I'm going to do the next thing again. And, you know, Jesus says it's not what goes into the body that makes you unholy. It's what comes out of your body, like the wrong words and things like that, right? And but also what you consume is also something that you end up putting out. So let's say you like to consume a lot of uh, look. Let's say you like to consume a lot of news and stuff like that. I like to keep up with current events because you got to know what's going on. That's why Facebook and Twitter and all these other social medias are so darn negative, because everyone focuses on things that, at the end of the day, you got no control over. So mainly what I was consuming at the time was like, say I had a long road trip, I would be putting on podcasts from these bodybuilders, or I would. There's one guy out in Australia. His name is Eddie Ung. His YouTube channel is Eddie Active. I looked him up because I was looking up natural Mr. Olympias. There is a Mr. Olympia for naturals, and he was one of the competitors. I would listen to his stuff. I'm not watching it, I'm just listening to it. And I was just absorbing this stuff. It became my life. And to the point where my wife was ready to kill me. But when I was getting ready to go to the gym, the next day I had the wraps I was going to wear. And if they were my black wraps with like the red line, I had to make sure I had my red tank top and my black pants with the red stripe down them. I had to make sure everything was on point because I'm the hero of my own movie. And that's when I was doing that, when I got, to the point where it consumed me, at least for that brief moment in time, it became, instead of, now bodybuilding is something I do. It's not who I extreme makeover, if you will. When you have to do something like that, you can't half butt any of this stuff. You have to go all in. All right. It starts here. And then when it boils down to, again, someone else can say it better than me. If you check out the movie Generation Iron 4, Natty for Life, there's a guy, his name is Adrian Pietrow, I think is his last name. He was asked, what's more important? Is it the gym? Is it nutrition? Whatever. He says, it's 100% the gym, it's 100% nutrition, and it's 100% mindset. The mindset, the wealth mindset, right? It's really starts with not only believing that you're going to do it, but having goals that are so crazy it scares you. All right. Folks, look, here's the thing. Every last one of us here, all right, human beings by and large aren't necessarily unique from one person to the next as far as like, oh, this person has like 15 thumbs or something like that. Of course, we're all designed basically the same way. But we are all unique individuals, all right? There's never going to be another Jose Gonzalez. Of course, there will be another person named Jose Gonzalez, but there's never going to be that Jose Gonzalez. My parents misspelled my name almost 50 years ago, so there will probably be plenty of Kris Crowleys, but maybe only one or two of them with a K, right? Look, but there's going to be other people like that, but there's only going to be one you. And God made you in his likeness and image, correct? What other thing have you seen that God designed that wasn't amazing? All right. And since he made you in his likeness and image, that's even that much more amazing. And then let's think about everything that had to happen for you to be alive. Your parents had to like each other for a couple minutes at least, right? And conception had to happen, and conception had to be carried to term, and you had to make it through your infancy and everything else. The miracle of being alive should be enough to push you to ride this bad boy out all the way to the end, because, when you die with regret, it's your fault. The dreams come to you to be brought to life, and only you have the power to make them happen.
Wow, I'm personally getting so much value out of this. I know our listeners are going to be also. One thing that you said about, that getting into that mindset and your routine that I liked is when you said, my wife wanted to kill me. And the reason that I like that is because, sometimes people don't realize that for you to achieve something, right, a transformation like this, right, because you're basically breaking a generational curse. Right, you don't come from a line, a family of bodybuilders, right?
Mm-hmm.
You come from a family or background where, for the most part, people have been, like you said, eating terrible foods that impact our health, impact our body. And so to be the first of something, to achieve something like this and set the example, it requires a level of obsession, right? And whenever you become obsessed to the point where it's like, hey, my shirt has to match the lines on my wraps, okay?
Yeah.
It's gonna get into people's skin because, like you said, people want to be comfortable. So I love that you said that. Now, and the reason that I wanted to bring this topic, to our audience is, again, I believe as men, we need to be in shape, we need to be healthy, we need to be able to provide for our families, and you can't do that, right, if you're in a hospital, or if you're not able to do a simple squat. So And as we established, mindset is so important, right? It's where it all begins. So talk to us now. You've gone through your transformation. You have adopted this wild man obsessive, a mindset. How do you stay consistent?
Uh, because I stay consistent by continue to compete for one, because I am, I'd like to say that I've got all of this nailed down and I'm never going to make a mistake again. But fact of the matter is, if I'm in my off season, I'm always working out, because if I miss it, I work out 4 days a week now. I used to work out 6 days a week, but I've learned through other coaches, as well as just listening to my body. I'll be 49 in October. I do have to take time to recover. So, but back to the thing. I make sure I hit the gym regardless, because I love hitting the weights. But if I don't have something to focus on with a date, with a deadline, I can see myself slacking off. All right. Again, during the holidays, I'm going to enjoy food during the holidays. I might not have had to enjoy it as much as I did, but I did. You know what I'm saying? And the thing is it happens. You're going to have a gain phase. You're going to have a not gaining phase. Okay. In the real world, I look just fine. If you put me on a bodybuilding stage right now, they would give me a consolation prize just for showing up and say, okay, have a great day. Right. But that's just how it works. You're never stage weight 24/7. But staying consistent. Also, another thing is, I saw where I used to be, I don't know if I might have a photo right here. 1 second.
Yeah.
So
If you're on the podcast right now, you won't be able to see this photo, but for all of our people watching this on YouTube on our video podcast, you'll be able to see this photo.
So for those of you watching, another huge passion of mine is music, and my favorite musician is Prince. And my son and I, a couple of years back, went to Paisley Park. And there's a picture of me right there with my son, and my gut's hanging over my pants. I was probably 250, 260 in that picture. And seeing those pictures just from a few years back, and then seeing what I look like now, it's a stark reminder that if I don't stay consistent, I can go right back to there. And now, not only would I go right back to there, but being closer to 50 than I was back then, it can make things a lot worse. And the other thing that keeps me consistent is my wife and I, next Saturday, will be married for 28 years.
Oh,
And
congratulations.
thank you. Thank you. And when we go out, we just have a great time. We're able to do things, enjoy life. We do a lot of dancing, and I get to do a lot of, I dipper a lot and everything else. And men, you want to make sure you can still keep passion alive after 28 years. Take her dancing, trust me. But if I was out of shape, I want to be able to do that with her. And my wife deserves the best of me. And again, you were talking about family. My father, 72 years old, he's been living in a hospital bed on the first floor of his house for probably almost 3 years now. And his wife has to take care of him, change his diaper and stuff like that. And again, I love my father. He's a great man. And, the physical education that we have now, the information we have with us now just necessarily wasn't there back in the day. And we know now that, there's really, we know how important diet, health and exercise is. And I mean, back in the 60s and 70s, it just wasn't promoted as much. But then again, there wasn't as much processed food back then. So people were able to be relatively in shape because they were eating natural food. But it's so impossible to find natural food these days, practically. And when you do find it, it costs a heck of a lot more than some processed bag of garbage down the aisle that, they'll say it's keto, but that's only because it's got thousands of chemicals in it instead of, God forbid, eggs. So.
No, you're absolutely right. I also have a similar situation where, my father passed away at 59, and he had renal issues. He was 7 years on dialysis, and my mother now, she's a stroke patient. She's been in a similar situation, like your dad, where she's bedridden for about 6 years now. And that was one of the things that woke me up, right? I started thinking to myself, are my kids going to have to change, my diapers? And so, again, like, when you talk about those things, usually the things that keep people they say that there's two things that the brain is wired for. It's wired to seek pleasure, and it's wired to avoid pain. But
Right.
avoiding pain is a lot more powerful, right? If I
Right.
say to you, hey, Kris, I'm gonna give you $1 million, but you need to stand inside of a fire pit for 2 minutes, you're like,
Right.
I don't need the money that bad, right? Because you
Right.
would rather avoid, that pain. And you mentioned earlier how working out and eating healthy is hard, but I think that through this conversation, one of the things that we're establishing also is that not working out,
Hmm.
not eating healthy is its own degree of hard, right? So
Yes.
it's kind of like choose your hard, right? There's a pain
Yeah.
of discipline, and then as you said, there's a pain of regret. Now,
Right.
one thing I want to get into here is um and you kind of touched on this a little bit when you talked about going out with your wife and dancing, right? And still having that that youthful virility that we should have as a man.
Right.
Tell me how your health transformation has helped you personally as a man,
Mhm.
financially, and then as well as a husband.
Well, as a man, I certainly have a lot more confidence when I walk into a room. You know, it's people tend to respect me more. I'm a manager, and when I walk into a room and I give a presentation or whatever, people are paying attention to me. I'm not getting the fat jokes I used to get. I mean, holy cow! There wasn't a week go by where someone was, "Hey, Kris, there's some donuts over there." Yeah, I'm aware there's donuts. I already had 4 of them, but it's like, yeah, I'm aware the donuts are there, right? Um, my clothes fit a lot better. In the competition time, I was able to buy like I had to go to like Aeropostale, I think that's how you say it. I don't know. I had to go to the where the young kids are buying clothes to get pants because when I went into the regular stores in the mall, they didn't have pants my size. I had to get 28s. I haven't worn 28s since I was in high school. So I mean, you want to talk about a boost to my ego, right? Um, Now, being I am a married man, I'm not that, but I did notice sometimes younger women looking at me and checking me out. I'm not going to lie and say that that didn't give me a boost to my ego. Nothing to do with it because I'm married and I love my wife. I'm not going to lose my wife over 5 minutes with some girl I'm never going to meet again. You know, so that was really cool. So it definitely gave me a boost to my self esteem, and then everything else. Um, Financially, it's it's not there yet. I mean, I'm doing well with. I mean, I have a great job and everything, but as I have been able to turn my passion into something that I can help other people with, and while I certainly I'm not charging high ticket items for anybody who wants to be my client because I don't pay that much for my coach, so I can't see myself doing that to somebody else. I know some people say, "Oh, you should have the high ticket items," blah 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 blah. I'm like, well, somebody who's got the can afford the high ticket items can also afford uh, like they can afford these guys that are like Clark Bartram or some of these other really high ticket trainers. I want the middle class person to be able to come to me and get really damn good results. So that's why I don't charge the high ticket items. But financially, well, I'm definitely not spending a lot of money on medicine, so that's a great thing.
Mm.
My grocery bill, it's probably making up for it because, again, Whole Foods are a little bit more expensive than junk food, but that's okay. My health, I guess you could say that down the road financially, I'm going to be much better off because, good Lord willing, I'm not going to be dealing with dialysis. I'm not going to be dealing with living in a hospital bed and having someone to come and take care of me. And and then hopefully I got a friend down the street, 70 some odd years old. He's one of my gym bros. He's doing just fine. He's not in a nursing home, and that's my goal: is to not be in a nursing home. I can retire next year. My goal is to make the agency I work for pay me for at least as many years as I've given them, which at next year will be 25. They're going to pay me at least 25 years. Well, shoot more back on a pension because darn it, that's I think I deserve that. As Definitely spiritually, I noticed something. When you're going through contest prep, and your contest prep, guys, is a little bit different than just getting healthy because you're really manipulating your calories and manipulating your macronutrients to pull as much fat off your body as you possibly can. So you're going to go through some really hormonal problems at times. Libido is going to go, into the basement and everything else. But you really test yourself there. And then you really, when you're doing that, you get some introspection. You see things that you need to improve on in your life. You see how great you've got things. I don't know. It's a very emotional time. And I certainly got to see just how truly blessed I really am. I have two awesome sons, Noah and Caleb. They're great young men, and they've done a lot of great stuff in their life. I've got an awesome, beautiful wife, Colleen, who supports me. And you don't think about all of these things until you're going through these physical transformations. You get these when you're noticing the victories, your small victories yourself. You're starting to notice a lot of other beautiful things too, because your mindset changes. You're no longer depressed because you're almost 300 pounds. You're no longer depressed because you're looking at one Big Mac away from a stroke. You're no longer depressed because you're the fattest person in every picture you see in the group that you're in. So your mindset shifts, and you're seeing all the positive things out there, and it's amazing. And then you see the blessing of changing your life around. You know, none of this would happen without God's grace. And that's another
Mhm.
thing. It's like I noticed that you know God's in control. Granted, I got to do the work, but it's up to Him whether or not He's going to let me continue to do the work, and it's up to Him if I'm going to continue to be on this planet, because every day is a blessing, right? And so you see all of those things, and you really want to find a way to help bring people to health, but also at the same time use the gifts that God gives you to show another person how amazing God is and how amazing this life is He's given us.
I really love that, and as you were talking, it was reminding me about when I went through my own transformation. And I remember telling my wife when we first met, I told her I used to battle depression. And she asked me, what does that mean? And I
Right.
said, well, what it means is that I was eating like crap, right? I was overweight, and that causes internal unhappiness because that, like you said, right, God gave us this life, and but we're not maximizing it, right? We're not using our talents and gifts. And one of the reasons that I kind of went into that sphere, and I'm sure this is kind of your inspiration too, is that we can recognize as men, you know, one thing that irks me, right, when I hear men specifically say is when they laugh off or joke off being overweight, right? And
Right.
they say stuff like, "Oh, well, you know me, I'm just a big boy, or I love to eat," right? Or
Right.
and because I know that behind that, little joke or whatever, there's a lot of pain,
Yep.
right? That
Mhm.
they're suppressing, that they don't want to come to the surface, right?
Right.
And so I'm sure you can relate to that. And it's a big thing, it's a big thing. I wish that I can somehow, inspire people again, which is largely part of the reason I wanted to have you on here, because I want to be able to inspire men. This channel is about mindset, money, and marriage, right?
Right.
But I think that a huge catalyst to that is your health, right? As a man, is being in shape, because it's going to improve your brain. Like you said, it has, it pays dividends in your spiritual life, right? It makes you a better husband, a better father. You just feel better about yourself. I remember when I went through my transformation, it was mind blowing because I would go to the supermarket or across the street, and there would be other men yielding to me, right? Like I would go for a, a shopping cart, and other men would be like, "No, after you," and I'm like,
What's up? Yeah.
yeah, like it was a little weird, right?
Right.
But it wasn't, it was there's this because I think that men see you and they know, like, man, that person has a level of discipline that I wish that I had, right? And they kind of look at you with this small amount of reverence, as though like I wish, I can do that. Now, with that being said, I'm sure you will agree that, community, right? And support plays a big, big role in
Yes.
someone making this kind of transformation. So it's hard for people to often be self-motivated, right? To match the stripes on their wraps to their shirt, and right. But,
Right.
you know, and like you said, the fact that someone is able to take in this content virtually, whether it's through a listening platform or a video platform, you know, shows that we're living in a great technological era, right?
Right.
And that allows support and community to look like a lot of things, right? Like maybe you didn't have a bunch of bros that were going to the gym with you, but you were able to listen to something on YouTube, right? Listen to something on
Yes.
Audible and kind of create your own support and community. So
Yep.
talk to us about, you know, not just the importance of community and support, but ways that someone that wants to, you know, kind of go through this transformation, that they can create their own community and their own support.
So when you're getting ready to do something like this, folks, all right, here's the thing. You're getting ready to go through a physical transformation. Now, I know I've used the term bodybuilding a few different times, and a lot of people, when they hear that term, they shrug it off, because the first thing, especially ladies, will say, I don't want to get too bulky. Women, unless you're using steroids, it's impossible to get too bulky. Men, you're more than likely not going to get too bulky anyway, because you're not going to be taking steroids. All right. But for men to say, I don't want to get too bulky, that's nonsense. Every man wants big muscles, whether or not he wants to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger or just maybe look like Chris Hemsworth or, you know, like Sylvester Stallone. That's two different stories. Right. But if you are trying to improve your physical appearance by doing right diet and by doing proper exercise, by definition, you're a bodybuilder. Okay, because what's a bodybuilder? A bodybuilder is nothing more than someone who's putting himself up on a stage wearing next to nothing to show, to display his work in diet and exercise. All right, so first things first, start looking at people who you want. I mean, like, I want to say idolize them, but look up people whose physiques you'd like to have. Okay. Sylvester Stallone back in the days, you know, like Rocky Four or something like that. Bruce Lee, Arnold, any of these guys. All right. For me, it was like I mentioned earlier, I was looking up natural bodybuilders because I didn't want to look up somebody who had a physique that I knew was unattainable. All right. Person I think is the best bodybuilder on the planet right now is Chris Bumstead, bar none. But there's no way I'm ever going to look like him. All right. Because he is a Mr. Olympia. Therefore, he is taking performance enhancing drugs. And I don't care. That's between him and God. Do you. That's fine. I mean, you're in that business. You're going to do it. So I was looking up natural bodybuilders. I found that guy, Eddie Ung. I found a guy, Justin Ferreira, Brandon Lirio, Philip Ricardo, all of these other guys that had phenomenal physiques. I'm like, oh. So I started following them. And then some of these guys I became pretty good friends with on Instagram. Some of them I think probably thought I was fanboying them too much, because I was. And then you find these communities on Facebook, all right? And you find these communities on Instagram. And then you know what else? You become that community. People are going to start following you, all right? Look, social media has made us all a little bit narcissistic in a way. But here's the way to do it properly. Put yourself out there, tell the world what you're going to do, and then document it. All right. I was documenting the heck out of it. If you go back to my earlier post, like in 2019, 2018, every week I was taking a front, side, and back picture of my fat body. Every week I was doing that. And then a couple weeks later, it wasn't as big as it used to be. And then a couple weeks later, oh my God, there were some abs showing. And then a couple weeks later, it was like, oh my gosh, your ribs are, dude, you're jacked. And so you're becoming the hero of your own movie, but you're inspiring other people. I got high school friends of mine that I haven't talked to or seen in years, like, Kris, your story inspired me. I've lost 30, 40 pounds.
Wow.
So speak it out to the universe. Tell the world what you're fixing to do. I highly advise anybody out there that wants to go through a radical physical transformation to look up the amateur bodybuilding shows in your area. Almost every one of them has a transformation division. And that transformation division is where somebody who was very heavy for whatever reason, could have been a very tragic event. I've known people that had car accidents, or people that were in the service that had like an IED explode on them and it really messed them up, or people that just were overcoming food addiction, whatever. Your story is your story. Everyone out there can relate to a story you've got to share. And then you're showing up a year later, you lost 100 pounds. They got the before picture up on the screen, and then they got you as the person there. and then you got something to shoot for, and it's just it really brings people into, I mean, you become the hero and you become the community too. So you go find these other communities on Facebook, look up, some whatever it is. And look, if you want to do CrossFit to get in shape, that's fine. I don't care about that. Just look at radically transforming yourself and find those communities. And here's the other thing. We all have the friends out there. And I still talk to these people because I love them. All right. But we all have the friends out there that, oh man, I wish I could do what you do. I wish I could do what you do. Well, I'm nobody special. You can do what I did. So when you get that kind of stuff going on in your life, I wouldn't tell you to cut ties with those people because no, that's nonsense. But just don't engage in those conversations with them. All right. Because they're just going to continue to say those types of things. And screw it, man. Yeah. Okay. I'm sure. Because look, I don't have much patience for nonsense. When people sit there and tell me, gosh, I wish I had time to do what you did. What the heck do you think I did, man? I didn't invent a new clock. I didn't find a day with 27 hours in it. All right. Bill Gates, well, like him or not, he's done some rather successful things, right? Elon Musk, Joe Rogan, Jose Gonzalez, Kris Crowley, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. So it's just how we allocate that time. All right. As much as I would love to look, I love being able to sit down, watch 5 hours of Tiger King, drink a butt ton of beer. And I really do enjoy those slothful ways. I just know they do absolutely nothing for me. So like you said, there's the pain of discipline. There's the pain of regret. There's the pain of working out and treating myself right. And then there's also the pain of having a 44-inch waist on a good day. All right. Having a high blood pressure, sweating because I walked up a flight of stairs, wondering what in the heck my wife sees in me when I want to make love to her. All of that stuff, right? You have to choose. You said you got to choose your hard. So choose your hard. And I have no idea where I was going with this. I think I kind of went way off the rails.
We were talking about support and community, but you was
Yeah.
giving some powerful tips on
Yeah.
people to follow and
follow those people, man. Follow them on Instagram, and you don't have to always engage in the person. Oh my gosh, you're so inspiring. You don't have to do that. They know that. Just follow them, and then watch their stories, read their books, listen to their podcasts. Do those types of things. Again, like I said earlier, absorb yourself into this stuff. The people that are the negative Nancy's and all of that stuff, don't cut them out of your life because they are your friends, and hopefully sooner or later your example will do something for them. But otherwise, put yourself around the people that are going to make you a better person, and then you're going to make other people better. And then when it comes to the gym, man, find some good gym bros that you hang out with. Definitely keep in touch with them and motivate each other. And there's so many people that I go to the gym with that I see them outside of the grocery store. Hey, what's up, man? And my wife's like, let me guess, another one of your gym bros. Yep, you guessed it. So.
I love that. I love that. So before I ask my last question, Kris, tell people, best ways to connect with you. If someone wanted to work with you, and transform their life as well, how will they reach you?
Okay. The best way to find me is Desire for Iron Fitness on Instagram. I'm on there a lot. If you go to my website, desireforiron.com, you can, use the contact form to get a hold of me there. I have my YouTube channel is Desire for Iron Fitness. I have a lot of decent, good information on there. Reach out to me. If you tell me that you came and reached out to me through the Wealth Mindset podcast, I'm sure we could work together even better than we already have with the deals that I have down there. My online training packages, it's going to keep you accountable. I'm going to be there for you. Trust me, folks. I've been where you've been. I've worn the t-shirt. I know. All right. So somebody who's been there with you and can be in your corner as opposed to someone who's never shared your problems before, I got you. All right. And we're going to keep you accountable. I'm not going to sugarcoat things if you've done something stupid. All right. But I'm not going to sit there and be a Marine Corps drill instructor on you. I love you. I want you to do well. I want you to succeed. DesireForIron.com, Desire for Iron Fitness on Instagram.
Love it. Love it. No, Listen, like I said, I know this is going to be a blessing to so many people. You know, you're a great man. I've enjoyed our friendship. You're straightforward and no nonsense, and I know that for anyone that's looking for, for a real transformation, you're the person to come to. So, my last question is, what's the best advice? And I'm sure we've touched on a lot of things, right?
Sure.
But what's the best piece of advice that you would give someone who's looking to make a transformation similar to yours, meaning going from being unhealthy and overweight to being in the best shape of their life?
Okay. Best advice. Recognize, first of all, I don't want you to kick yourself in the butt for where you're at right now as far as like beating yourself up, because guess what? You're not the only person who's been there. All right. But I do want you to let that anger fuel you to go in there and kick some serious butt every single day. Take your time. All right. It's great. Yes, you can lose 5, 6 pounds a week, a lot of weight, right? But take your time. Don't beat yourself up if every week isn't the same as the last week. All right. Maybe you lose 5 pounds this week and you only lost 2 pounds the next week. All progress is progress. Finding a coach is important. Working on the basics when you're first starting is very important. All of these people, like you're trying to find the new TikTok trend of some sort of crazy exercise. That is a recipe for hurting yourself. Those guys they've been doing that stuff for years. Work on the basics. You're working on your squat, you're working on your bench press, whatever. And also, if you can't do that, if you can only do push-ups or whatever, your body does not know the resistance it's getting. It's not like you're doing some push-ups with your body elevated, like you're doing push-ups against the wall. It's not like your chest is going to go, oh, that's not a bench press, so I'm not going to improve. Your body just knows it's getting resistance that it hasn't had to have before. And the only time your body is not going to adapt to resistance is either one, the resistance isn't doing all that well, like because you're not doing anything, you're just lifting up like a pencil, or you're dead. Your body is always going to respond to resistance. There's folks like, oh, I'm 70 years old, I'm not going to grow muscle. Yes, you are. You might not grow it as much as you did in your 20s, but you're going to grow muscle. So just get in there, get the work done, and get past your own BS and just kill it every day.
Awesome, awesome. I can't be said better than that, guys. So there you got it from our Desire for Irons professional here, Kris Crowley. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in today. I will link the where to connect with Kris, the website, and his socials down in the show notes below. If you found value in this, please consider subscribing, leaving us a review, or sharing this with someone that you feel that would be impacted by this message. Thank you so much, Kris. It was an honor having you on here. I was deeply impacted by what you shared, and I look forward to connecting soon, brother.
Yes, sir. I want to say one thing before we go, Jose. It has been a true honor becoming your friend. You and I started talking with each other, I'd say about 2 years ago, maybe
Yeah.
more or less. And here's two dudes, completely different backgrounds, completely different parts of the world, parts of the country. And I consider you my brother from another mother. I love you. Thank you for having me on your channel, brother.
Thank you, brother. Likewise. God bless you and your family, man. We'll talk
You
soon.
too. Sounds good, my man.
All right. Peace out.
Peace out.